Welcome to Convergence, Episode 2 on People for People Radio. Find out how the personal is political as we explore the politics here on Earth, the exopolitics of our galaxy, and dimensions beyond through my unique perspective. Join me for discussions about how social justice activism, ET activism, and spiritual transformation converge to bring in the new positive timeline. So today we're going to cover the current restriction policies of Canada, and it was supposed to be also of the United States, as I had a guest who at the last minute didn't make it to the show. And so I'm going to talk about the restrictions here in Canada as it's reported and as I'm experiencing it. But I'm going to sort of end off the show with talking about how we can use some of these situations, although they are uncomfortable and sometimes even unbearable, but we can use them to our very best advantage. So I know that some of the listeners are from different countries. I'm in Canada, and some of you might be in Canada as well. And so I want to talk about the restrictions, not from a perspective of us being the only ones in the world that are facing this. I'm actually quite convinced that everybody all around the globe is experiencing something very similar. So I'm just going to report in today on the current restrictions in Canada. Now, I also live in Alberta, which is a different province than, say, British Columbia or Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Ontario. And so the laws and the restrictions are slightly different depending on which province that a person lives in. But this is pretty similar across the board. So these are what we're facing right now for restrictions. Face masks, must be worn before entering any public place, including out of doors if we are around other people. Although the public health orders do approve mask exemptions, none of the public places will let you in without a mask. And mask exemptions are not being honored, and they're not being honored anywhere. It's not like this store will let you in with a mask exemption and this one won't. None of them are allowing anybody in who has a mask exemption. So even if you do wear a mask and you social distance, you can be fined, arrested, and barred from public places if anyone complains to the police. All complaints are treated as factual violations, even without evidence. People are encouraged to snitch and believe that this is necessary for public health and safety. Doctors are no longer giving medical exemptions under any circumstances, and they won't even discuss it. There are huge fines and police and security brutality, which are very quickly becoming the norm in Canada. Everyone is told to stay at home, don't travel, and have no company except for members of your own household. People who live alone, like myself, have 2 designated people who can come and visit and help me out. And it can only be those 2 people. Other than that, I don't have any contact with friends, family, neighbors, anything like that. All the small private shops are closed, but Walmart, Costco, Superstore, and even Dollarama remain open. This completely defies logic because it's actually easier to maintain social distancing in the smaller privately owned shops than in the great big Walmart, Costco, Superstore, or even Dollarama, which is a very large chain here in Canada of stores. There's no indoor or outdoor social gatherings. Everyone must maintain physical distancing. Businesses, churches, and recreation facilities are closed. And work must be done from home unless it is an essential service. And there are very few essential services. One of them is the deliveries. All the deliveries from the liquor stores. It's insane how much my son's girlfriend works for a delivery service, and she can't believe how much liquor consumption has increased just over the last 3 months. So people are relying on it in order to cope. There's a curfew in Quebec from 8 p.m. till 5 a.m. and soon this will follow in Ontario. And if you're caught with out after 8 p.m. at night, unless you're some kind of a special delivery service or something that has to happen, you will get up to a $3,000 fine. They're also searching cars. Every 3 to 5 cars are now being searched in those provinces. Political figures are consistently not following their own orders. So I'm going to quote a little bit from True North. And also, you can confirm everything I'm saying by going to YouTube and watching Rebel News. Rebel News is the alternative reporting channel here in Canada, and they can show you tons and tons and tons of evidence of everything that I've said here. But I'm going to proceed with the information that I gathered from True North. So this is what it has to say, and I quote, "While Canadians have been forced to obediently follow coronavirus public health regulations, politicians have willfully ignored those same rules without any consequences. Time after time, public officials have repeatedly violated their own advice. Whether politicians are going on vacation, visiting their families, or ignoring social distancing measures, it's become clear that they don't believe the same rules apply to them. True North has kept track of every single time a Canadian public official has broken coronavirus rules. From April to December 2020, the rule setters enjoyed weekend getaways, exotic vacations, visits with family during Thanksgiving and Christmas, etc. They have shared overcrowded flights without social distancing, made public appearances without wearing masks properly or social distancing, attended massive Black Lives Matter protests despite public health orders banning large gatherings. They are attending busy international airports without masks or PPE. They are enjoying crowded meals with family, friends at restaurants. They're attending weddings and other large gatherings. They've enjoyed overseas trips to Finland, St. Bart's, Barbados, Peru, Cancun, Montego Bay, and other vacation hotspots. I'm going to read you the list because you won't believe how long it is, but I'll move through it quickly. In 2020, the list includes Liberal Health Minister Patty Hadju, who is a 4-time repeat offender, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who is a repeat offender, Andrew Scheer, repeat offender, Elizabeth May, Carla Qualtrough, Conservative MP Michelle Rempel, Doug Ford, again a repeat offender, John Tory, Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart, Aaron O'Toole, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney, Ontario MPP Sam Oosterhoff, Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkins, Saskatchewan Cabinet Minister Joe Hargrave, Ontario Senator Vern White, Ontario Finance Minister Rod Phillips, Quebec Liberal MNA Pierre Arcand, Quebec CAQ MNA Yuri Chasson, Alberta MLA Pat Wren, Alberta MLA Jason Stephen, Brian Pallister, Liberal MP Alexandra Mendes, Liberal MP Lynn Bassett, Liberal MP Patricia Latanzio, the acting manager of the Public Health Agency's Office of Board and Travel Health, Dominique Baker. And the 2021 list includes MLA Tracy Allard, Hawaii, that's where she went. NDP MP Nikki Ashton, who went to Greece. Calgary Paysian MLA Tanya Furr went to the USA. Alberta MLA Jeremy Nixon went to Hawaii. Calgary MP Ron Liepert went to California. MP for Brampton West Kamel Kara went to Seattle, Washington. Liberal MP for Pierrefonds Dollard Samir Zuberi went to Delaware. Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo MLA Yanni Yeo went to Mexico. Conservative Senator Don Plett went to Mexico. MP for Flamborough Glanbrook David Sweet went to the USA. Manitoba MLA James Tietzma was outside of the province. Ontario MPP Guy Labarto, member of Ontario's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table, Dr. Tom Stewart, went to the Caribbean. Victoria City Councillor Sharmak Dubo went to East Africa. Senator Vern White went to Finland, and London Health Science Centre Chief Executive Paul Woods went to the USA. So it's really upsetting for people who are told you can't have Thanksgiving with your family. You can't go to restaurants. You can't go to church. And all of these different politicians that I've listed here have told us, the people, to stay at home and avoid travel if at all possible. So it is as if it's bad enough that they've been going on all these vacations. They haven't been following their own advice and the rules that they've put out for everybody else, but they're being caught and they're being exposed. And so we're seeing footage and images of them having these large restaurant gatherings, sitting tight, close together with no masks, no PPE, nothing like that. And it almost makes it look like we, the citizens, are fools, absolutely fools. Because if there was a virus as deadly as what our leaders are telling us is, they sure wouldn't be behaving the way they're behaving. And it's even a bit worse than that, because they've been very deceptive and they've really tried to deceive us by making videos, little fake videos ahead of time with the Christmas tree and the fire going and a few presents on the table and a mug of, hot cocoa or a glass of something that we have at the holiday time. And then they give their little talk. Thank you, everybody, for staying home. We know this is a terrible time. We're all in this together, but we can do this. And then we find out that was pre-recorded and filmed, a couple of months early, and that they're off at some Caribbean hotspot, warming their toes in the sun, going to restaurants, and taking advantage of all the things that they have told us that we can't have. And so I got to tell you right now, there's a huge amount of outrage in Canada, and but this is the problem. What they've done is I'll just read what I have here. So another very disturbing feature of this lockdown is the gang-style physical assaults from police and security. They are bullying the young and the very old, men, women, and youth. They are especially targeting the mask exempt and old people sitting on public benches to rest, a few youth out playing hockey on a lake, and random people who are complying with the rules are actually being targeted. And this sounds so unbelievable. I want to talk a little bit about some of the circumstances. So we've seen all kinds of footage that's been taken mostly with people who have their cell phones armed and ready, thank goodness, of like a little old lady sitting on a bench just having a rest. She's kind of disoriented and just having a little break. And the police come along and they handcuff her and they stuff her in the back of a police vehicle. Another example is very well documented. A few guys out playing on the ice, just playing some hockey. And the police come along and start screaming at them. Now, most of there's only a few of them, but they sort of started to leave the park. But one of them, he wasn't being defiant. He was just asking, why? Why? There's nobody here. We're social distancing. We're in the great outdoors. We're just trying to blow off a bit of steam and play some hockey. And the response was the police started screaming at him, swearing at him, trying to knock him over, ordering him down to the ground. Now, when you've got skates on, it's not that easy to drop to your knees and get on the ground. He said, let me take my skates off, and I'd be happy to do that. And the two police just started slamming into his body, trying to get him to drop. And then he sort of glided a little bit out onto the ice. What do? One of them takes a taser out and aims it at him. She's not that far away from him. She just got it pointed at him. And he's going, please don't taser me. Please don't taser me. I haven't done anything wrong. And the other police is screaming at him and swearing and just acting so abusively. So another example is a young couple that went into a mall. They were wearing their face masks. They didn't do anything wrong, but the mall security decided to target them and started following them out of the mall because they were told to leave and they were complying. But they were kind of joking around a bit because I guess that's what we do when we're under stress. And so the security guards, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of them, just dogpiled this guy. There's no need for this kind of brutality, and we rarely see it in actual criminal circumstances. So to make things even worse, the police are now being controlled by bureaucrats and unelected officials. So these bureaucrats and unelected officials, somebody snitches and phones them up or lets them know that there's somebody who's not complying, and people are really into the snitching because they believe that they could get sick and die because of this, because of the propaganda. And so they're snitching, and so unelected officials and bureaucrats are able to call the police or the security, and they get to do whatever they want. Now, Rebel News has been tracking down the people that are giving the orders and trying to find out what's going on, especially amongst the mask exempt. So the mask exempt, even if they have a letter from their doctor, which they don't legally have to show, mask exemptions are allowed in every province. The problem is none of the shops or stores or services will do business with you or allow you on the premises if you're not wearing a mask. So when you give them your exemption, what happens is they tell you that you're trespassing, they call the police, and the police arrest you for trespassing. Now, some of these examples that I have seen have been elderly people and people with disability issues, and they're lined up at pharmacies to get their prescriptions, and they're being manhandled, they're being handcuffed, and they're being hauled off by the police. It is so disturbing that I think many Canadians right now are actually in a state of shock. And so we're asking, what is going on? So far, the different government officials have been contacted. They either refuse to comment or they pass the buck to another official who then refuses to comment. and passes them on to another official who passes them on to the first official again. So nobody is making comments on why this is allowed to happen. It's just that if you step out of line, the message is very clear. You are going to get physically abused by people who know how to do that kind of stuff. I'm sure there are good police, and I'm sure there are good security people, but by and large, the kind of people that go in for those kind of jobs really like having a little bit of power. So now they've all been given this power to go out and do whatever it takes to subdue the people. And it is not only heartbreaking, it is absolutely disturbing to see what's going on. Canadians are being manhandled, fined, arrested, and detained without explanation, charges, or the opportunity for legal counsel. So this so overwhelmingly goes against the Constitution and several other laws that have been ratified in Canada and many other countries that prevent this kind of abuse. So the first thing I ask, and I don't have the answer for this, but the first thing I ask is, how is this able to happen? Because even people who are going to court to fight the fines, pressing counter charges for physical abuse and physical damage to their bodies, this is stacking up a lot of cases in our court systems. So as if that isn't bad enough, if that's taking up our court systems, what are the court systems doing regarding what we would call regular crime? All of a sudden, there's nobody going after what we would call regular crime or even irregular crime, because everything is being focused on the propaganda that people who don't wear masks are actually murderers, potential murderers, because of the propaganda. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my personal experience. My personal experience is that I have a mask exemption. And my mask exemption is tied in to some post-traumatic stress that I suffer from due to other abuses that have happened in the past. And due to me having someone try to suffocate me to death on several occasions, as soon as I put on a mask, I have intense layers of anxiety and stress to the point where it's really hard for me to think clearly. The other thing is that I'm hearing impaired. And the type of hearing impairment I have is damage to my inner ear, and a hearing aid does not give me the benefit of being able to understand messages or even hear sounds, or to be able to tell where sounds are even coming from. So when I go out into the public arena, the people that are wearing the masks, I can't hear them. I can't lip read. And the look on my face, I probably look like a stunned bunny because I'm trying to make sense of what I'm being told. And when I don't react swiftly and completely to what is being said to me, I am then being read as being non-compliant. And I got to tell you, that doesn't do anything for my anxiety levels, because in the past I have been brutalized, illegally arrested, detained without charges, tortured and beaten by police officers, and I've had that happen to me. So now I am quite afraid of law enforcement, and I'm afraid to go out. So once a week, my son and his girlfriend come and get me, and they take me grocery shopping to get the things I need, but I have to wear a mask, and it's extremely stressful. It's actually a frightening experience for me to be able to go out and just obtain food for myself. So they are completely ignoring all the mask exemptions, even though if you look up the bylaws and the mandates for the provinces, They are not accepting it, and the police and the security guards and those who are the enforcers for the propaganda are really enjoying being able to be angry, scapegoat, and target regular citizens. Now, I don't know where this is going to go. My guest couldn't make it today, and he was going to give the American perspective on what was going on. And I can't really speak to the American perspective because, first of all, I'm not there. And second of all, I've come to the point where I don't believe anything on mainstream news, on mainstream media. And I certainly can't believe everything I hear on the alternative media. So where do I go for correct information? The best I can do is Rebel News and True North and different groups like that, and hope I'm getting it right. Now, in the United States, I'm just going to be blunt here. All hell's broke loose. There is so many conspiracies within conspiracies linked to conspiracies. Who knows what's really going on? The propaganda will give us one side, and then the rest of us are basically guessing, or the few who have contact with people in the know are doing their best to report. So what's happening is intense censorship. People are losing their YouTube channels. I myself am being targeted by Facebook and other social media where I can't share my content with people. And that's very discouraging and certainly disappointing, not just to me, but also to my viewers who have come to appreciate my content. So again, I can't really talk for the United States, but I have a feeling, and I didn't really do the research to be able to give you the background information that I am basing my opinions on. But I'm going to give you my opinion, and that is there is so much rapid change going on right now, it's hard to know what's really going on. So even though it looks really hopeless, I'm going to, since I have a bit more time today, I'm going to read you a little bit about what is proposed to happen in Canada and in the United States in the next few months. And I've gotten this information from some fairly reliable sources. But before I get into that, I want to tell you that I believe that change is something that we not only can't get away from, but we don't really even want to get away from it. There are so many changes right now that in the next month, whatever the outcome is for the political climate in the United States, that will have a direct effect on what is going on in Canada, what is going on in the UK, what is going on in different parts of the world, because we are all very much interconnected. So although I do not see any one politician as being my personal savior, not at all, I don't actually trust any of them. I think the right and the left are two wings from the same bird. But still, within all of this, because of my paranormal experiences, I am well aware that there are vast armies of beings who are involved in what's going on this planet. Now, I'm not saying they're going to come down here or make themselves manifest and cure all our problems. That's not what this is about. From my perspective, what this is all about is to evolve humans as a species, and for us to rise up, become sovereign, and take back our own power, and evolve to the point that we can interface with the fourth and the fifth dimensions and beyond that. Over the course of this show and over the course of time, I hope to share many of my experiences with you, not to convince you, but to show you that there's so much more than what we are perceiving with our five immediate senses. You know, we're running around basically blind. All we have is what we smell, what we see, what we hear. Well, and some of us don't see so well and don't hear so well. Our sense of touch, our sense of taste. we're literally running around blind. And then you take on top of that the fact that we take in data through those 5 limited senses, and then we process it in our minds the best way we understand it. But it's always run through our own personal filters so that we're not really getting an accurate position on what's going on around us. And that is why it is so essential for us to start moving into our secondary and third level senses. So the examples of the secondary senses would involve telepathy, precognitive abilities, different things like that. And then there's actually a third set, and we're all born with this. None of this is just saved for some special, unique people. We're all born with this, but the propaganda has filtered it out of the construct, which we think is reality. For so long, we've forgotten how to do it. So the third level of senses we have actually involves stargates, where we can actually travel etherically and even physically to other places and other realities. So that's a bit much for me to get into today, but I just want to give you a heads up that I'll be sharing more. And so getting back to the fact that we have spiritual friends, we have non-corporeal beings. These beings have been talked about in every culture, regardless of where you live, regardless of what you believe. It's all out there. Just the propaganda of the construct has relegated these experiences to what they call fiction or fantasy. And they've convinced most of us that these things are not real. To tell you, I've had enough experiences to know that these forces are absolutely real. Now, the other thing is they don't just march in and take over. That's not part of how they work. They work on what I will call the love harmonic. And the love harmonic seeks out what is best for every species. These beings offer us a tremendous amount of encouragement, insight, but the catch is you have to be willing to let them in. You have to be willing to be humble enough to ask for help. When we invite them in, they come and help us, but not before, because that's against their basic non-interference way of doing things. And that ultimately is for our best interest, because it makes us exercise our own abilities to the point where we can have what is called soul development. So I'm trying not to be preachy here or to say that my opinion on all of this is the absolute truth. Not at all. My hope in sharing this information with you is possibly to inspire you, encourage you, help you to go within. We've been really brainwashed to look to external sources for information, for wisdom, for direction, for healing, everything. But the truth of the matter is we can go inside, we can find our own inner resources, and through our own inner resources, we can make contact with our own guides and non-corporeal beings who are here to help. Now, I'm not going to get into the ET subject today, but that will also come in some of my future shows. So before I get into how folks are using the current circumstances to actually improve their lives, I would like to get into a little bit about what the plan is. So if the politics of the planet are such that the New World Order plan goes forward, and we don't know that at this point, but if it does, they have actually given us a roadmap on what they have planned, which is pretty interesting. So I have two roadmaps here. I have the one that's for the general world, and I have the one for Canada, which is quite similar. So we have what is called the Liberal Party in Canada, and some of these people have been involved in meetings with the Prime Minister's office to roll out things like restrictions, and some of them are developing a conscience, which to me is a good thing. And they are having trouble sleeping at night because they know what they're doing isn't right. And so they leak information to us to help us to know what's coming and to be at least somewhat prepared. So I'm part of an international tribunal. It's a natural and common law tribunal. We have, between 25 and 30 judges, and we all submit evidence. I just want to bring you a little bit up to speed on that. What we've done is we have formed the indictment. It's over 200 pages. The indictment has been served. The defendants have been given enough time to respond. They did not respond, and so we are assuming that their silence is agreement that they have indeed done these things that we've mentioned in the indictment. The indictment is very comprehensive. Huge amount of work has gone into it. I want to thank Alfred Lambermont Weber, who's in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Also Seven, who is in the UK, because they did the majority of work to produce this indictment. So I'll tell you what the indictment basically is: to stop the restrictions globally. The indictment is to stop all allopathic vaccinations. It goes after all the major media sources, mainstream media sources. Of course, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill and Melinda Gates also as people. We're going after quite a few of the world leaders, and there's so much more to it. So I want to encourage everyone to check out Peace in Space with Alfred Lambermont Weber, and you can find out all the details on what's going on with that. So since then, we have moved into, we had an actual evidence trial. It was hours and hours long, where we all documented our evidence, and it all had to be submitted in a specific format. And then after that, we also left it some time for them to get back to us. And of course, none of the defendants responded. And so now it's moved into enforcement. And it's being enforced in about 3 different ways in the 118 countries who have ratified the laws, international laws that basically make it impossible for them to do to us what they're doing to us. Let's just put it that way. And it has to do with the Nuremberg trials. And at that point, it was considered that nobody has a right to be experimented on, and that we all have inalienable rights that need to be respected. Well, someone needs to tell that to the politicians, because it's all been just sort of thrown out the window. So I'm going to read to you some information. This is just an overview. It isn't the actual article. I encourage you to go to the article. So this information was found in 2 articles. One was the Canadian politician leaks new COVID lockdown plan and Great Reset dictatorship. This was found in an Australian publication called Cairns News North Queensland People Power News Service, and it was also published in the Canadian Report, Saturday, October the 10th, 2020. So this is the information from a whistleblower. The whistleblower is a committee member within the Liberal Party of Canada who sits within several committee groups. The whistleblower says that the information they provide is originating from the Strategic Planning Committee, which is steered by the Prime Minister's office. They said that their opinions have been ignored, and the Prime Minister's office has a plan for moving forward towards their goals, and they made it very clear that nothing will stop the planned outcomes. So this whistleblower also stated that about 30% of the Canadian politicians are against this, but all of their complaints and concerns are being completely ignored. The scary thing about that is it means 70% of our politicians are all for this. My goodness. So they provided a roadmap that was set out by the Prime Minister's office, and it is partially outlined as follows. They want to rush the acquisition and construction of isolation facilities across every province and territory, and this was expected by December of 2020, and we have indeed seen that many of these have already been built. A complete and total secondary lockdown, which was expected by the end of December 2020 and early January 2021. Well, we're seeing this happen now. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the Universal Basic Income Program, and that's expected to happen in the next couple of months. There will be enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as the third lockdown, which will be implemented, and full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity. And this is expected to start around April, May of 2021. Then there will be a transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program, which is expected about mid-2021, and then deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas as well as all major roadways to establish travel checkpoints. So they're going to restrict travel and movement, and this is going to happen. According to this projection, this is going to happen if everything rolls out the way they plan it to, which I'm not saying it's going to go that way, but that's how they have it planned. Just a couple more points. The Strategic Planning Committee was asked to design an effective way of transitioning Canadians to meet an unprecedented economic endeavor that would change the face of Canada and forever alter the lives of all Canadians. The person was told that in order to offset an economic collapse on an international scale, the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief to eliminate all personal debts, including mortgages, loans, credit cards, etc. All funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF under what will be known as the World Debt Reset Program. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, individuals will forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. These individuals must agree to partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which will provide individuals with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living, even under a full lockdown, through the use of Canada's Health Pass. The World Debt Reset Program will handle all of the details. Now, several committee members also questioned what would happen to individuals if they refused to participate in the World Debt Reset Program, or the Health Pass, or the vaccination schedule, and they were told that it was their duty to make sure they came up with a plan to ensure that this does not happen. They were told that those who refused would first live under the lockdown restrictions indefinitely, and over a short period of time, those who refused to participate would be deemed a public safety risk and would be relocated into isolation facilities. Now, once in those facilities, they would be given two options: participate in the debt forgiveness program and be released, or stay indefinitely in the isolation facility under the classification of a serious public health risk and have all of their assets seized. So no matter how we look at it, compliant or non-compliant, all our assets are going to be seized. And opinions and concerns of the committee members were completely ignored, and they were simply told, just do it. So this came out in October of 2020, and it is so shocking and so unbelievable. Most Canadians are not willing to believe this. They believe it's some kind of conspiracy theory. They believe that the politicians and the health officials are there to support us and protect us and make sure we're safe. But I gotta say, guys, come on, just take a look at Canadian history. Take a look at the treatment of our Aboriginal First Nations people. Take a look at the children and all the children that have gone missing in Canada and the rest of the world. Where are the children? There are so many things that cause death, like malnutrition. All over the world, different people are experiencing malnutrition. Nobody is saying anything about that. How many times have we seen there's been huge disasters and situations that really could have used some money to help, but money just keeps getting poured into bogus companies, secret organizations, all kinds of things. It is absolutely clear to me that the rulers of every country on this planet give very little care to the citizens. And so what's happened is it used to be that the rulers were there to work for the citizens, and now we have a global population of slaves who simply work for the politicians, do their bidding, and it's a great big mess. It's all interwoven, with the economic system, with the religious system. And so getting on to some of the positive aspects of all of this, I'd like to speak to that just for a moment. Okay, so the positive aspects of this is a new system can't be built until the old one is exposed, and that's happening now. So I'm going to tell you the great, what appear to be these huge groups, the industrial medical complex, the industrial medical media complex, the religions, everything that has been hiding dirty secrets and has been destroying basically the planet and keeping us ignorant and keeping us poor. I know not everyone is poor. In fact, I got to just add this. Did you know that in 2020, over 50 billionaires were created by the coronavirus? And this is all in the allopathic medical field. 50 billionaires have profited off of our stress, our suffering, our restrictions, but it's not going to last. I'm telling you, it's like an old cart. The wheels are ready to fall off. And there are many people who've been working on a different system, probably a system, but a different system that at least honors the inalienable rights of human beings on this planet. And in extension of that, we also have to care for everything. We have to be stewards for this planet. And so there are all kinds of things on the table to help bring this come to pass. So with that being said, I want to draw your attention. I'm not a religious person, but because of my personal history, I did spend quite a bit of time in what is called Christianity. Now, I'm not disrespecting Christianity at all. I would never disrespect the spiritual beliefs of anybody. That's not my intention here. But I do want to say that by spending time in Christianity, studying the Bible, and understanding some of the higher teachings that are in the New Testament, I want to draw your attention that I believe we are now in the harvest time. So there are different parables that were talked about. There was the parable of the wheat and the weeds. And so the farmers went out and they planted some wheat, and somebody came in, a bad person came in and sowed weeds all into their wheat. Well, they couldn't tell what was wheat and what was until the harvest time. And then it was really obvious. And so this is a parable for our day. We don't know who's the wheat and who's the weeds until the harvest time. And so these great pressures we're under today are boosting the potential of understanding who are the wheat and who are the weeds. Now, also because of my paranormal experiences, I also understand that there are other beings that live in different realities. And there is more than enough evidence that our DNA, the human species, is actually an artificial species. It's been created out of these different groups who came together to form kind of an experiment here on Earth. And what's happened is our DNA is now coming into fruition. So with all the things that are happening in our solar system and in our galaxy, and Earth changes, along with all the political changes, all of these stresses are people. And we're now becoming pretty obvious, are we wheat or are we weeds? Another parable is of the sheep and the goats. And so you don't know until under test, under pressure, what something is going to turn out to be. And so right now we're experiencing something that can be likened to a birth process. Those of you who have had babies know exactly what I'm talking about. And you empathetic males out there who have been around women who have had babies, you know what I'm talking about. You find out you're pregnant, you're so happy, a baby's coming, but you don't feel so good. And it becomes a real burden to share your physical body with a new life until the birth comes. So just before the birth, in that last month of waiting, it is so unbearable. You're almost willing to do anything to have that baby. Birth happens, and that in itself is quite the event. And then you have this beautiful little baby. And I think that is what's going on for us today. So I want to encourage everyone to stay strong and stay true to yourself. Don't let the system change you in a negative way, because it's temporary. It's not going to last. And I'm going to tell you something else. I've done a lot of research, and I've found out an interesting fact that a lot of people don't want to hear, and that is pressures refine us, and they show us what we're made of and who we really are. And this process is in no way new. Poor people all over the globe and all through history have been forced to evolve by coping with the social and economic pressures. That's how excellence is born. Excellence is born from those who have compassion and empathy, because they're also creative. They're also innovative, and there's nothing we can't do. And there's so many of us. We're a huge army. So I encourage everyone to come out of the shock and awe as much as possible, and to really take good care of yourself. Take really good care of your psychology. Take really good care of your body. What are you eating? What are you doing to bring yourself to a better place? So this time of restriction gives us every opportunity to work under pressure, to improve our physical health, improve our emotional health, find out who we can trust, who we can't, who are our allies. What can we do to make this world a better place? Just even if you're staying home because you have to, start spending some time every day asking yourself, how can I be of the planet and to my neighbors and to my family? What can I do to make this life better for me and all the people I interact with? And I'm going to tell you something, all of this strength is very contagious. And so I'm very encouraged to look forward as to what changes what are happening in the world. One other little side note I just want to add, what's really interesting is in the United States right now, there's just huge topsy-turvy and information coming out and possible conflict with other countries. And here we are in Canada. The government has invited the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, their military into Canada. So I have no idea where this is all going. So maybe we're all worrying for nothing, because maybe all of this is going to change just in the blink of an eye, and we could have another whole new reality to have to wake up to. So, thank you for joining me for episode number 2 of Convergence with myself, Karen Holton. And if you would like to enjoy more of my content, please check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. My website, where you will find an abundance of free resources to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. And what you'll find at my website is the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. This is a free, no strings attached, comprehensive online lifestyle course. Also, the Quantum Guide Show, which is interviews with awakened masters. Let them share their quantum work with you. Formation with Karen and Chris. Learn how to make positive ET contact, improve your life, and find your experiencer community. And also the Fringe Views, science fiction, because you learn about my real life paranormal and extraterrestrial experiences. If you check out my online shop, where you will find Zendome's Orgonite, my unique brand of orgone generators, ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. Comfort crystals, a limited collection of energetically infused semi-precious stones. Lifestyle services, I offer workshops, assessments, and one-on-one support and coaching. And I also have some PDF downloads, which are printable, shareable copies of my lessons. So my website is www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. I'm a different kind of health coach. My email is forbiddentransformation@gmail.com. And of course, you can find me here on People for People Radio, www.peopleforpeople.ning.com. And you can also check out my YouTube channel, as long as they're letting me keep it, www.youtube.com/C/Karen Holton TV. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining me today. I do apologize that my guest today did not arrive. There could be all kinds of reasons for that. So I'm sure he wanted to be here, and maybe I'll have him on next week, and you can get the American perspective. It'll be even more interesting a week from today. And I want to thank Gaz. I want to thank People for People Radio, and I want to thank Vanessa, because without you, I wouldn't be here. And I just appreciate you all so very, very much. So I hope you all have a really good week. I hope you all take really good care of yourselves. And I'm going to send out my love to each and every one of you, because I love you so much.